Yes, all set. ESL Trailblazer, let's make something happen. Here we are, back for another episode. If you missed last week's, you can click right up here for the other one from last week's. However, this week I got something special for you. Risk. Are you a risk taker? So, I'd like to talk about that this week. I think it's a great topic for your lessons, whether professional or everyday general English lessons. You can do this as a teacher. You can do it from intermediate and higher, I believe. Risk is something that we deal with on an everyday basis, everyday language or professional language, okay? So, in a company. Let's get right to it then, without further ado. So, the thing about this word, whether you are a risk taker or not, whether you do extreme sports or use some kind of transport that might be dangerous or take risks in your daily life, there are some words that can be used to specify the type of risks that you take. We take a risk, okay? Or we run the risk of, or something poses a risk, or we take a calculated risk. So there are a few examples, and I'll give you some more. So the calculated risk is one of my favorites. It means that you know that there's going to be a risk. You've anticipated it. Boom. All right. And now you're calculating, you're weighing up the pros and cons to determine whether it's worth doing it, taking that risk. Okay, so calculated risk, very important. Sometimes we take calculated risks knowing what's involved because we feel like even though it is a risk, there's more potential benefit to come to us rather than something hurtful or dangerous. Potential is another collocation of risk, okay? The potential risk of something happening. We analyze or evaluate the potential risks of something happening in a decision that we make in our private lives, buying an apartment, changing a job, moving to a new city, or at work, okay? Changing the team that we work with, okay, or doing some task in a new, different way that we might not be so familiar with, that could potentially be risky adjective, okay? All right, we also have some nice synonyms with risk that might be new to some of you. For instance, hazard, peril, jeopardy, okay, threat, menace. I'll go through those for a second with you, okay? So, jeopardy should be a new word for most of you. It's a very nice one, okay? Lovely word. Jeopardy means that, I'll give you the preposition, your life is in jeopardy if you're doing something dangerous, okay? Your job is in jeopardy, all right? So, that just means that it's in danger. There's a risk. Okay, so if you do something at work that's risky or that might get you in trouble, your job might be in jeopardy. Okay, if something that you do very extreme, your life might be in jeopardy. I know that's a little bit of an extreme example, but it's very common to use it with that. Okay, hazard. Hazard goes with health, like health hazard. Okay. Fire hazard. A hazard means, again, something that can affect our health, in this case, for my example, all right? Health. Now, I've had some of my students ask me in the past, what's the difference between health risk and health hazard? It's not so easy to explain, but maybe a good way of explaining it is that a health risk is something that you do to yourself. Like if you smoke cigarettes or you're a heavy drinker, this is a health risk. A health hazard would be if you are in a bar or a cafe and it's full of people smoking. That's a health hazard because it's out of your control. You're not controlling it and it might hurt you, damage your health, make you feel sick. So that is a health hazard. Okay, I'm giving the smoking as a very practical example, but it could be something else. All right, I did jeopardy. Let's move on to peril. Okay, if your family is in peril, or your life is in peril, or your job is in peril, again, it means something similar to jeopardy, that you might lose it, or that the family is having some difficulties right now for personal reasons, and you're not doing well together in the relationship, okay? Our relationship is in peril, that would go together, okay? We also have the word threat, all right? The verb is to threaten, All right, you can threaten somebody, not very nice, but something can be a threat to your business, or be a threat to your job promotion, or be a threat to, the way you work with others in your office, okay? It could cause like problems or friction. We say that something causes friction, like the way maybe if you gossip behind people's backs, or the way you behave might be a threat or cause of friction in the office, okay? Or in other relationships you have outside of work, okay? Menace, we usually use with a person. If a person is a menace, it means that they cause trouble. Usually it comes up a lot with like teenagers or adolescents. There's kids sometimes who can be a menace, but somebody at work can be a menace. Again, they're causing trouble to others. Maybe it's their behavior, maybe it's their personality, maybe they're rude, nasty, etc. We would say that they're a menace, okay, kind of aggressive. All right, let's move on from that. I've already talked about anticipate. It's a good word. I want to come back to it only because it's a good substitute. Fantastic substitute, okay, for expect or predict. My students overuse those two words, and they're fine in most cases, but anticipate goes better with problems and risks. If you anticipate problems and risks, it very clearly states that you're thinking about the future and you're predicting in a way that it's going to happen. But we don't say predict problems. You anticipate problems, okay? All right, and then we have minimize or foresee, or as I've used before, evaluate, and finally eliminate. Okay, so minimize, I think it's clear. I don't have to give examples. You lower it by taking some kind of action to make it less. All right, we eliminate it. It's clear. Again, you take action to make sure that it's gone. Not minimize it, but completely get rid of it. All right, foresee, nice word. To foresee, again, it's kind of connected to anticipate. Foresee, you're seeing in the future. You're seeing in the future so that you can take some action to make sure that you can avoid risk. All right? Finally, we go to the adjectives. There's so many. I'm just going to give you a few. Here we go. Immediate, imminent. It means that it's very close to happening. All right? There's an imminent risk. There's an immediate risk of this occurring. Okay? Some changes in the office. Or some changes in your neighborhood that might cause some problems with where you park or how you live on a daily basis. All right? Changes to the laws, for instance. Okay? Now, when we want to describe big or small risk, instead of using those very basic big and small words, we can use tremendous, considerable, substantial risk. Tremendous, considerable, substantial. I will come back to this in a future episode. Great words for substituting it for big. All right, or we can say negligible, all right, or remote, to say small or very little chance of happening, okay? There's a remote risk that you might not get the tickets to the concert if you wait too long, or negligible risk means it's so small that it's not even worth thinking about or anticipating or doing something about. Negligible, nice word, okay? And I talked about potential, so I'm not going to go there. And that's it. Remember, you can also use risk to identify specifically what the risk is. So, is it a financial one? Is it an economical one? Is it an environmental one? Is it a health risk? Is it a fire risk? All right? And we also have some phrases. You run the risk of something happening if you do this in a conditional sentence, okay? So, I've really hammered you. All right? Got to do it. Gave you a lot of language. It's all been coming up on the screen, hopefully, because I've been trying to move up the standard of the video so you can see all the language. I hope you found it useful, practical, valuable, beneficial. Try to substitute some of that language in your everyday life. Risk is something that we have to deal with on a daily basis in our lives, whether they're professional again or everyday life, personal. All right? ESL Trailblazer. I'm Nandis. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Please subscribe if you find it useful. Share it if you think this is something that can be used by teachers, students, anybody. All right? And I will see you next week for another episode. I'm really pumped. Click on this card right here if you missed the previous episode. This is a really good one. Or subscribe right there. I will see you next week. That's all I got for today. Later, guys.